I have prepared a 500-word introduction speech in the inspirational prosperity style you're looking for. Welcome. Today, you are standing at the doorway of a new understanding, a new awareness, and a new relationship with wealth. The next 48 hours have the power to shift something profound within you. Not because money will suddenly appear from nowhere, but because your thoughts, beliefs, and expectations can begin to align with a greater flow of abundance. Many people spend years trying to change their financial circumstances, while leaving their inner conversations untouched. They work harder, worry longer, and hope for different results, yet they carry the same beliefs about limitation, lack, and struggle. The outer world faithfully reflects the inner world. What we repeatedly accept as true in our minds often becomes the experience we encounter in our lives. A stronger wealth mindset begins with a simple realization. Abundance is not something reserved for a fortunate few. It is a principle woven into life itself. Nature does not operate through scarcity. The ocean does not count its waves. The sky does not measure its stars. The trees do not apologize for bearing fruit. Everywhere we look, life expresses itself through increase, expansion, and growth. When we begin to understand that we are part of this same creative intelligence, we stop seeing prosperity as something distant and start recognizing it as something we can welcome. Over the next 48 hours, you are invited to become aware of every thought that opposes your good. Notice every belief that says there is not enough. Notice every fear that whispers that success belongs to someone else. Notice every old story that tells you money is difficult, opportunities are rare, or your dreams are too large. These thoughts may have been repeated for years, but they are not permanent truths. They are habits of thinking, and habits can be replaced. A wealth mindset is not built through wishing. It is built through expectation. It is the quiet confidence that good is moving toward you even before you can see evidence of it. It is the decision to trust possibility more than limitation. It is the willingness to speak words of prosperity instead of words of lack. Every thought planted in faith becomes a seed. Every expectation nurtured with belief begins to grow. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a different inner dialogue. Imagine speaking about your future with certainty rather than doubt. Imagine seeing opportunities where you once saw obstacles. Imagine feeling gratitude for blessings that have not yet arrived, because you trust they are already on their way. This shift may seem small, but it changes the direction of your energy, your choices, and ultimately your results. These next 48 hours are not merely about attracting money. They are about becoming the version of yourself who naturally expects increase, recognizes opportunities, welcomes success, and remains open to unexpected channels of supply. The moment you strengthen your mindset, you strengthen the foundation upon which wealth can be built, received, and sustained. Most people believe that wealth begins in a bank account, a business opportunity, a promotion, or a fortunate event. Yet before wealth appears in any visible form, it first takes shape in the mind. Every achievement, every financial breakthrough, every successful venture begins as an idea, a belief, an expectation, or a vision held within consciousness. The mind acts like a blueprint, and life often follows the pattern that blueprint creates. If a person constantly thinks in terms of limitation, they tend to notice obstacles, fear risks, and overlook opportunities. If a person thinks in terms of abundance, they become more aware of possibilities, more confident in their decisions, and more receptive to favorable circumstances. The relationship between thought and financial experience is more powerful than many realize. Every day, countless people repeat phrases such as, "Money is hard to get," "I never have enough," "Things are getting worse," or "Rich people are just lucky." These statements may seem harmless, but repeated thoughts gradually become beliefs, and beliefs influence actions. When someone believes there is never enough money, they often approach life with fear and hesitation. They may avoid opportunities because they expect disappointment. They may resist investing in themselves because they expect failure. Their actions begin to mirror the limitations they have accepted in their minds. A stronger wealth mindset begins with recognizing that thoughts are not merely passing mental activity. Thoughts carry direction. They shape perception. They influence emotion. They affect behavior. What a person consistently thinks about eventually becomes the lens through which they view the world. Two individuals can face the same circumstances and experience them completely differently because of the beliefs they hold. One sees setbacks as proof that success is impossible. The other sees setbacks as temporary lessons on the way to greater achievement. The mind is constantly receiving and storing impressions. Every conversation, every memory, every repeated statement leaves an imprint. Over time, these impressions form patterns of thinking. If those patterns are centered around fear, doubt, and lack, they can become invisible barriers to financial growth. A person may desire wealth while simultaneously holding deep beliefs that wealth is difficult to attain. They may dream of success while secretly expecting failure. This inner conflict creates resistance because the conscious desire and subconscious belief are moving in opposite directions. When a person begins changing their mindset, they start changing the foundation from which their actions emerge. Instead of focusing on what is missing, they begin focusing on what is possible. Instead of dwelling on financial struggles, they direct attention towards solutions, opportunities, and growth. This does not mean ignoring challenges or pretending difficulties do not exist. It means refusing to allow challenges to define expectations for the future. The wealthiest ideas often appear long before wealth itself arrives. Every successful company began as a thought. Every invention existed first in imagination. Every financial achievement was once an unseen possibility. The visible results came later. This demonstrates a principle that applies to all areas of prosperity. The inner world precedes the outer world. Before circumstances change, perception changes. Before results improve, thinking improves. A person with a wealth mindset develops the habit of expecting favorable outcomes. They train themselves to see abundance where others see scarcity. They understand that opportunities are often hidden within ordinary situations. They remain open to new ideas, new connections, and new possibilities because they believe good can come from unexpected sources. Their confidence does not depend entirely on current conditions. Instead, it comes from a growing belief that there are always ways for greater prosperity to enter their lives. Words play a significant role in shaping this mindset. Every statement made repeatedly becomes a form of instruction to the subconscious mind. When people constantly speak about debt, struggle, and insufficiency, they reinforce those patterns. When they begin speaking words that reflect growth, possibility, and abundance, they gradually create new mental pathways. The mind responds to repetition. It accepts what it hears consistently and begins organizing perception around those messages. Gratitude also strengthens the foundation of a wealth mindset. When people appreciate what they already possess, they shift attention away from lack and toward abundance. They begin noticing resources, skills, relationships, opportunities, and blessings that may have previously gone unnoticed. Gratitude expands awareness and creates a mental atmosphere where prosperity feels natural rather than distant. As the mind becomes more aligned with abundance, confidence grows. Fear loses some of its influence. New ideas emerge. Decisions become clearer. Opportunities become easier to recognize. Actions become more intentional. What once seemed impossible begins to feel achievable. The individual starts living from a sense of possibility rather than limitation, expectation rather than doubt, and abundance rather than scarcity. One of the greatest obstacles to financial growth is not a lack of resources, education, or opportunity. It is a mindset of scarcity. Scarcity is the belief that there is never enough. It is the feeling that opportunities are limited, success belongs to others, and every gain for someone else somehow means less is available for you. This way of thinking can become so deeply rooted that many people accept it as reality without ever questioning it. They see lack everywhere they look, and because they expect limitation, they often attract experiences that reinforce those expectations. A scarcity mindset does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it appears in subtle thoughts and everyday conversations. It shows up when a person immediately assumes they cannot afford something beneficial. It appears when someone believes there are no good opportunities available. It emerges when a person becomes fearful about the future and constantly anticipates financial problems before they arise. These patterns may seem normal, especially when repeated over many years, but they shape perception and influence behavior in powerful ways. When the mind is focused on scarcity, it becomes difficult to recognize abundance. Opportunities may be present, but fear prevents action. Helpful connections may appear, but doubt discourages engagement. New ideas may emerge, but limiting beliefs dismiss them before they can develop. The individual begins to operate from a place of defense rather than growth. Instead of asking, "What is possible?" they ask, "What if it doesn't work?" Instead of expecting increase, they prepare for disappointment. An abundance mindset begins with the realization that life offers more possibilities than the fearful mind often recognizes. Abundance is not merely about having large amounts of money. It is an awareness that opportunities, creativity, solutions, and resources are constantly expanding. It is the understanding that growth is a natural principle. Everywhere in nature, life demonstrates increase. Seeds become trees. Streams become rivers. Small beginnings develop into significant outcomes. Expansion is woven into the fabric of existence. The transition from scarcity to abundance starts with awareness. A person must first notice the thoughts they repeatedly entertain. Every belief that says there is not enough must be examined. Every assumption that predicts failure must be questioned. Every statement rooted in fear deserves attention. Many of these thoughts were learned from past experiences, family influences, social conditioning, or difficult circumstances. They may have been accepted without conscious evaluation. Once they are identified, they can be replaced. Replacing scarcity does not mean denying challenges or pretending difficulties do not exist. It means choosing not to give those difficulties complete authority over your expectations. A person can acknowledge present circumstances while still believing in future improvement. They can recognize obstacles while remaining confident that solutions exist. They can face temporary setbacks without concluding that lack is permanent. Language plays a major role in this transformation. Words influence thought, and thought influences experience. When people repeatedly speak about struggle, shortage, and limitation, they reinforce those ideas within themselves. The subconscious mind absorbs repeated messages and begins treating them as instructions. When a person starts using language that reflects possibility, growth, and prosperity, a different pattern begins to form. Statements such as, "There are opportunities available to me," "I am open to new sources of income," and "I expect good things to come into my life," help redirect attention toward abundance. Gratitude is one of the most effective ways to weaken scarcity thinking. Scarcity focuses on what is missing. Gratitude focuses on what is already present. When individuals intentionally appreciate their current resources, talents, relationships, experiences, and blessings, they train the mind to recognize abundance. This shift changes emotional energy. Instead of operating from frustration and fear, they begin operating from appreciation and confidence. Abundance thinking also encourages generosity. People with a scarcity mindset often hold tightly to everything because they fear there will never be enough. They become anxious about giving, sharing, or investing. In contrast, abundance-minded individuals understand that value flows. They recognize that generosity does not diminish them. They trust that opportunities for increase continue to exist, and that giving can create positive momentum in many areas of life. As abundance becomes a dominant mindset, new possibilities begin to emerge. The individual notices opportunities that were previously overlooked. Confidence increases. Creativity expands. Decisions are made with greater faith and less fear. Relationships improve because competition and envy lose their influence. Success achieved by others becomes inspiration rather than evidence of personal limitation. The mind becomes conditioned to expect growth instead of decline, possibility instead of restriction, and increase instead of lack. This internal shift changes not only the way a person thinks about money, but also the way they approach opportunities, relationships, goals, and the future itself. Your inner conversations are among the most powerful forces shaping your financial reality. Long before you speak to anyone else, you are constantly speaking to yourself. These silent dialogues occur throughout the day, often without conscious awareness. They influence how you see yourself, how you interpret situations, what you expect from life, and what actions you take. While many people focus on changing external circumstances, they overlook the ongoing conversation happening within their own minds. Yet it is often these inner words that determine whether a person moves toward abundance or remains trapped in limitation. Every thought carries a message. Every mental statement reinforces a belief. When these thoughts are repeated consistently, they become deeply rooted assumptions about what is possible and what is not. If someone constantly tells themselves that money is difficult to earn, they begin viewing every opportunity through that belief. If they repeatedly think that success belongs to other people, they unconsciously distance themselves from their own potential. These inner conversations become instructions that guide perception, emotion, and behavior. Many people would be surprised if they carefully observed their thoughts for a single day. They might discover frequent statements such as, "I can't afford that," "Things never work out for me," "Money comes and goes too quickly," or "I will probably fail." These thoughts may seem insignificant because they are familiar, but repetition gives them power. The subconscious mind absorbs what it hears repeatedly and begins treating those messages as truth. Over time, these beliefs influence decisions, expectations, and results. Guarding your inner conversations means becoming aware of the words you allow to circulate within your mind. It means refusing to entertain thoughts that weaken your confidence or reinforce lack. This does not require ignoring reality or pretending difficulties do not exist. It requires choosing thoughts that support growth rather than defeat. Challenges may arise, but there is a difference between acknowledging a problem and mentally rehearsing failure. One approach seeks solutions, while the other strengthens limitation. The quality of your inner dialogue directly affects your emotional state. Thoughts of fear create anxiety. Thoughts of doubt create hesitation. Thoughts of lack create frustration and discouragement. Conversely, thoughts of possibility create hope. Thoughts of confidence create determination. Thoughts of abundance create expectation. Emotions often follow the direction of thought, and emotions influence the actions you take. A person who constantly expects failure may avoid opportunities altogether, while a person who expects positive outcomes is more likely to take constructive action. One reason inner conversations are so influential is that the subconscious mind does not carefully analyze every statement. It responds to repetition. Whatever is repeated frequently begins to feel familiar, and whatever feels familiar is often accepted as true. This is why negative self-talk can become so damaging. A single negative thought may have little effect, but when the same thought is repeated day after day, month after month, it becomes part of a person's identity. They stop questioning it and start living according to it. Changing inner conversations begins with observation. Listen to the thoughts that arise when you think about money, success, opportunities, and your future. Notice whether your mental language is supportive or limiting. Notice whether you focus more on obstacles or possibilities. Many people discover that they have been unconsciously repeating beliefs that no longer serve them. Awareness creates the opportunity for change. Once limiting thoughts are identified, they can be replaced with thoughts that align with prosperity and growth. Instead of saying, "There is never enough," a person can begin thinking, "New opportunities are always available." Instead of believing, "Success is for other people," they can affirm, "I am capable of achieving meaningful success." These new thoughts may not feel natural at first, especially if the old beliefs have been repeated for years. However, consistency gradually creates new mental patterns. The goal is not merely positive thinking for its own sake. The goal is developing thoughts that empower action and support a healthier perspective. Productive inner conversations encourage creativity, confidence, and resilience. They help individuals remain focused on possibilities even when circumstances are challenging. They strengthen belief in personal growth and reinforce the expectation that improvement is possible. Guarding your inner conversations also means being selective about what influences your thinking. The messages you consume, the people you listen to, and the environments you spend time in can all affect your mental dialogue. Negative influences often reinforce fear and limitation. Encouraging influences can strengthen confidence and expand vision. The mind tends to reflect whatever it repeatedly encounters. As positive and empowering thoughts become more frequent, the inner atmosphere begins to change. Fear loses some of its control, confidence grows stronger, possibilities become easier to recognize. Decisions become more aligned with long-term goals. The mind gradually becomes a place where abundance is expected, opportunities are welcomed, and success feels attainable rather than distant. The conversation within becomes a source of encouragement, faith, and forward movement, rather than doubt, criticism, and limitation. One of the most transformative shifts a person can make is to begin acting as someone who expects wealth, rather than someone who merely hopes for it. Hope often waits for circumstances to change before taking action. Expectation, on the other hand, creates action because it carries an underlying belief that positive results are possible. People with a strong wealth mindset do not simply wish for prosperity. They align their thoughts, habits, decisions, and energy with the outcomes they desire. They begin living from a place of confidence rather than uncertainty. Acting as a person who expects wealth does not mean pretending to be wealthy or spending recklessly to create an appearance of success. It means developing the attitudes and behaviors that support financial growth. It means carrying yourself with the belief that opportunities are available, that your efforts can produce results, and that abundance is a natural possibility rather than a distant dream. This mindset influences countless daily decisions, many of which seem small but create significant long-term effects. People who expect wealth tend to approach life differently. When challenges arise, they do not immediately assume failure. They look for solutions. They believe there is a way forward even when the path is not immediately visible. Their confidence allows them to remain focused on possibilities, rather than becoming consumed by obstacles. This does not mean they never experience doubt or setbacks. It means they refuse to let temporary difficulties define their expectations for the future. The way a person manages time often reflects their expectations. Someone who expects growth values their time because they recognize it as a resource. They invest time in learning, improving skills, building relationships, and exploring opportunities. They understand that success is often the result of consistent actions repeated over time. Rather than spending energy dwelling on limitations, they direct attention toward activities that create progress. Expecting wealth also influences decision-making. Fear-based decisions often come from a scarcity mindset. A person may avoid taking reasonable risks, reject opportunities, or delay important actions because they are focused on what could go wrong. In contrast, someone who expects positive outcomes evaluates situations with a more balanced perspective. They consider potential rewards alongside potential risks. Their decisions are guided by possibility rather than fear. Confidence plays a crucial role in this process. Many opportunities are missed simply because people do not believe they are capable of success. They hesitate to apply for positions, launch projects, start businesses, ask for raises, or pursue goals because they assume rejection is inevitable. A wealth-minded individual understands that confidence is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the willingness to move forward despite uncertainty. They recognize that growth often requires action before complete certainty exists. Personal presentation can also reflect expectations. Individuals who expect success often carry themselves with purpose and self-respect. They take care of their appearance, communicate clearly, and demonstrate professionalism. These behaviors are not about impressing others. They are expressions of self-worth and confidence. When people value themselves, they are more likely to pursue opportunities that align with their potential. Another important aspect of acting as a person who expects wealth is maintaining a vision beyond current circumstances. Many people allow present conditions to determine what they believe is possible. If finances are limited, they assume limitation will continue. If opportunities seem scarce, they expect scarcity to persist. A stronger mindset recognizes that current circumstances are temporary snapshots rather than permanent realities. Expectations are shaped by possibilities for the future, rather than restrictions of the present. Gratitude and expectation work together powerfully. A person who expects wealth appreciates what they already have, while remaining open to greater opportunities. They do not focus exclusively on what is missing. Instead, they acknowledge existing blessings and trust that more can be added. This combination creates a sense of confidence and stability that supports constructive action. People who expect wealth also tend to invest in themselves. They seek knowledge, develop skills, and improve their abilities because they believe personal growth creates greater opportunities. They understand that their mindset, habits, and capabilities are valuable assets. Rather than viewing self-improvement as an expense, they see it as an investment in future possibility. The energy a person brings to daily life is often influenced by what they expect. Someone who anticipates disappointment may move through life cautiously and reluctantly. Someone who expects opportunity approaches situations with curiosity and enthusiasm. They are more likely to notice possibilities, engage with others, and take meaningful action. Their expectation shapes their behavior, and their behavior influences the results they experience. As these attitudes become consistent, they create momentum. Confidence strengthens, opportunities become more visible, decisions become more intentional, habits become more productive. The individual gradually develops a way of thinking and acting that aligns with growth, abundance, and achievement. They begin responding to life as someone who believes prosperity is possible, who trusts in their ability to create value, and who expects favorable outcomes to emerge through consistent thought and purposeful action.